Hey everyone! Before we dive into this unbelievable story, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or state in the comments. I love hearing from all of you. And if you enjoy stories about karma and second chances, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. The Texas heat hit me like a wall when I stepped off the plane at Austin Bergstrom International. I'd spent 2 weeks in Mexico City, burying my mother and settling her affairs. My sister Maria had stayed behind to handle the paperwork, so I was traveling alone, exhausted but ready to be home, ready to fall into my husband's arms and just breathe. I'd been a librarian at Zilker Elementary School for 23 years. While David built his tech consulting business, I spent my days teaching children to love reading, running literacy programs for families who couldn't afford books, and creating safe spaces for kids who had nowhere else to go after school. We weren't rich by Austin standards, not with the tech millionaires everywhere, but we were comfortable, or so I thought. I rolled my suitcase up the driveway of our modest ranch house in Travis Heights. The neighborhood had changed so much over the years. Tiny bungalows like ours were now worth over $1 million, surrounded by massive new builds where tech workers lived. David always complained we were sitting on a gold mine but living like we were poor. I never understood why that mattered. We had enough. The front door was unlocked. That was odd. David was paranoid about security ever since our neighbor's Tesla got stolen. I pushed it open and called out, "David? I'm home." Footsteps. Quick, light, not David's heavy stride. The sound of someone running. A woman appeared in the hallway. Young, maybe 35, wearing yoga pants and one of David's old college t-shirts. The shirt I'd bought him 28 years ago at a Longhorns game, back when we were dating and actually happy. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she had that fresh-from-the-gym glow that made me suddenly aware of how rumpled and tired I looked. I recognized her immediately. Monica Patterson, the PTA president at my school. The woman who always smiled so sweetly at faculty meetings while undermining every program I proposed. "Oh," she said, her voice dripping with false surprise. "Patricia, you're back early. Monica, what are you doing in my house? Why are you wearing David's shirt?" Before she could answer, David appeared behind her. He was wearing his pajama pants and nothing else. His hair was disheveled. There was a coffee mug in his hand, the one I'd given him for his 50th birthday that said "World's Best Husband." "Patricia," he said flatly. "Not honey, not sweetheart, just my name, like I was a stranger. We need to talk." "Talk about what? Talk about why there's another woman in our home wearing your clothes?" Monica touched David's arm, a gesture so familiar it made my stomach turn. "I'll give you two some privacy," she said. "I'll be upstairs." Our bedroom. She was going to be in our bedroom. "David, what is happening? Please explain this to me." He sighed like I was being difficult. "Patricia, I've been trying to figure out how to tell you this. I'm done. We're done. 25 years, and it's over." "Over?" I whispered. "I just buried my mother 2 days ago. I've been gone for 2 weeks dealing with her funeral, and you're telling me it's over?" "Your mother's death doesn't change anything. If anything, it made things clearer. Life is short, Patricia. I don't want to waste any more of mine." Each word was a knife. This man, the man I'd supported through 2 failed businesses before his consulting firm finally succeeded, the man whose student loans I'd helped pay off with my teacher's salary, was looking at me like I was nothing. "Monica understands my world," he continued. "She's ambitious. She gets business. She doesn't spend her days with children and dusty books. Do you know how embarrassing it is when my clients ask what my wife does, and I have to say she's an elementary school librarian?" I felt something inside me crack. Embarrassing? I taught hundreds of children to read, David. I created programs that helped families. I helped build your business with my steady income when you were struggling. He laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "You think your little salary helped? Patricia, I make more in a month now than you make all year. You've been coasting on my success for years, living in a house I paid for, driving a car I bought, taking vacations I funded." A pickup truck pulled into the driveway. David looked out the window and nodded. "Right on time," he said. 2 men got out of the truck. Movers. They walked up to the door carrying boxes. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice shaking. "These are your things," David said. "Clothes, personal items, a few books. I'm being generous. Everything else stays. The house, the furniture, all of it is in my name anyway. One of the movers handed me a manila envelope. The other started carrying boxes to the curb. Divorce papers, David said. Already filed. I had my lawyer draw up a settlement. You'll get a small amount for your trouble. Enough to rent an apartment somewhere. Sign them, don't make this difficult, and we can both move on. I stared at the envelope like it might explode. You can't just kick me out of my own home. Actually, I can. This house is solely in my name. I bought it before we got married, remember? You never contributed to the mortgage. Legally, you have no claim. That wasn't true. I'd paid utilities, groceries, repairs, but I'd never thought to put my name on the deed. We were married. We were supposed to be partners. There's more, David said, and now I heard something almost like satisfaction in his voice. Your position at Zilker Elementary is being eliminated. Budget cuts. The principal will tell you tomorrow, but Monica already knows. She's on the board. The library program is being restructured. They're going with a part-time position. You won't be eligible to reapply. I couldn't breathe. My home and my job, both gone in the same conversation. Monica appeared at the top of the stairs. Babe, should I start looking at paint colors for the guest room? Or should we make it a home gym? Babe. She called him Babe. In my house. About my guest room where my nieces used to stay when they visited. Patricia, you need to leave now, David said. Take your things and go. The locks are being changed this afternoon. If you don't cooperate, I'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing. I looked at the boxes on the curb. 25 years reduced to 6 cardboard boxes. I looked at David, at this stranger wearing my husband's face. I looked at Monica, smiling that sweet PTA president smile that I now realized had always been hiding contempt. I picked up the envelope and walked out to my car, my 10-year-old Honda Civic that David always said was an embarrassment to park in our driveway. The boxes barely fit. I sat in the driver's seat and didn't know where to go. Night fell over Austin. The city I'd called home for 30 years felt hostile now. I drove aimlessly down South Congress, past the boutiques and restaurants where tech workers laughed over craft cocktails, past the state capitol building lit up against the dark sky, past Zilker Park, where I'd taken hundreds of school field trips. I ended up at a parking lot near Lady Bird Lake. Joggers passed by. A couple walked their dog. Everyone seemed to have somewhere to belong except me. I opened my phone. 3% battery. I opened my banking app with shaking fingers. Balance. $1,247. That was it. Our joint account that used to have over $50,000, nearly empty. David had cleaned me out. I couldn't call my sister. Maria was still in Mexico City, dealing with mother's estate, grieving. I couldn't burden her with this. My few friends were all connected to the school, to David's business circle. The humiliation of telling them I'd been thrown out like garbage was too much. I was 55 years old with 6 boxes of belongings, $1,200, and nowhere to sleep. As I sat there fighting tears, I reached for my purse to find my phone charger. My fingers touched something I'd forgotten about, a letter. My mother had pressed it into my hands the night before she died, when the morphine was wearing off and she was having one of her clear moments. For you, Mija, she'd whispered. From your Uncle Raphael. He made me promise not to give it to you until I was gone. He said you'd know when you needed it. Uncle Raphael had died 15 years ago. I'd barely known him. He was my mother's younger brother, the family mystery. He'd moved to California in the 80s, worked in Silicon Valley, and rarely came home. At his funeral, there'd been whispers that he'd made money in tech, but we'd never seen any of it. He'd lived modestly, never married, left no children. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in my uncle's handwriting and a small key with a number stamped on it, 447. My dearest Patricia, the letter began. If you're reading this, then Angelina has passed, and my heart breaks for you. Your mother was the best of us, and I know you inherited her strength and her heart. By now you probably think your Uncle Raphael was a failure, a man who disappeared into California and died alone with nothing to show for it. That was intentional, Mija. Let me tell you why. In 1984, I was working as a janitor at a tech startup in Palo Alto. The engineers would work late, throwing away designs and prototypes. I would watch them, learn from them, ask questions. One of them, a kind man named James Chen, started teaching me about computers and software. James had ideas, brilliant ideas, but no money to patent them. I had savings from years of living cheaply. We made a deal. I'd fund the patents, he'd create the technology, and we'd split everything 50-50. We filed patents for touchscreen technology, wireless data transmission, smartphone operating systems, technologies that seemed like science fiction in 1984. James died in 2001, before our patents became truly valuable. I bought out his widow's share. By 2005, every smartphone company in the world was licensing our patents. By 2010, I was making millions every year in royalty payments. But I didn't tell the family. I watched too many lottery winners destroy their lives. I saw what money did to people. I saw how it attracted the wrong types of relationships, how it corrupted values, how it made people forget what truly mattered. So I stayed quiet. I lived modestly. I invested carefully. And I waited. I created a trust. It has one condition. It activates only when you need it. And I mean truly need it, not just want it. When life has knocked you down so far that you've hit rock bottom, when you're desperate, when you're alone. The key in this envelope opens Safety Deposit Box 447 at Wells Fargo Bank on Congress Avenue in Austin. The password to access it is your mother's maiden name, Mendoza. Inside, you'll find documents that transfer my entire patent portfolio to you. As of my death, it was worth $63 million. With the growth of smartphone technology over the past 15 years, I estimate it's now worth over $80 million, generating approximately $4 million per year in licensing fees. But Patricia, listen to me carefully. This money is not the real gift. The real gift is freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom to say no, freedom to build something meaningful. I designed this trust specifically because I knew you. I knew you'd marry young, to someone who might not appreciate you. I knew you'd dedicate your life to helping others, to teaching, to service. Beautiful qualities that this world sometimes takes advantage of. I'm giving you power, Mija. Not just money, but the power to live on your own terms. Don't waste tears on people who never deserved them. Take this gift and build something that matters. Build something that helps children, that honors education, that creates opportunities for people like us who started with nothing. And remember, the greatest revenge is living well and lifting others as you rise. I love you, Mija. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you this in person, but I'm not sorry I waited. You needed to become the woman you are today, before you could handle this responsibility. Your uncle, Raphael. I read that letter 5 times. My hands shook. My mind couldn't process what it was saying. $80 million. $4 million a year. My uncle, the family ghost, had been secretly wealthy and left it all to me. I slept in my car that night in a Walmart parking lot. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Monica in David's shirt. I heard David's voice, embarrassing, coasting, nothing to show for it. At dawn, I drove straight to Wells Fargo on Congress Avenue. I was there when they opened, still in my wrinkled travel clothes, hair unwashed, eyes red from crying. A young banker greeted me. "How can I help you today, ma'am?" "I have a key to a safety deposit box. Number 447. I'm Patricia Rodriguez. The password is Mendoza." Her eyes widened. "One moment, please, ma'am." She picked up the phone and spoke in hushed, urgent tones. I caught fragments. "Raphael's trust and the nieces here and Mr. Harrison needs to see this." She hung up and turned to me with a completely different expression. Professional respect, maybe even awe. "Mrs. Rodriguez, please have a seat. Mr. Harrison, our senior trust officer, will be right with you. Can I get you coffee? Water?" "Coffee would be wonderful," I said. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten. She brought me real coffee in a china cup, not a paper cup. Premium coffee. I wrapped my hands around it, letting the warmth sink in. 10 minutes later, a door opened. A man in his 60s, immaculate suit, silver hair, stepped out. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm Thomas Harrison. I've been managing your uncle's trust for 15 years. Would you please come with me? I followed him into a corner office overlooking Congress Avenue. The walls were covered with framed patents, technical drawings, photos of my uncle shaking hands with people I vaguely recognized from tech news. "Mrs. Rodriguez, please sit," Mr. Harrison said. His hands trembled slightly. "Before we proceed, I need to verify your identity. Do you have identification?" I handed him my driver's license. He examined it, typed on his computer, read something that made him go pale. "Mrs. Rodriguez," he said slowly, "when was the last time you spoke to your mother about your uncle's work?" "The night before she died. She gave me his letter. That's all I know. I thought Uncle Raphael was just a janitor who lived quietly and died alone." Mr. Harrison turned his computer monitor toward me. "Mrs. Rodriguez, your uncle wasn't just a janitor. He was a visionary investor and patent holder. These are his patents." The screen showed dozens of patent numbers, with technical descriptions I barely understood. Touchscreen interface technology, wireless data protocols, mobile operating system architecture. Every smartphone, every tablet, every wireless device manufactured in the past 20 years has used at least one of your uncle's patents, Mr. Harrison explained. The licensing fees have been accumulating in trust since his death. He pulled up another screen. Numbers. So many numbers. The current value of the patent portfolio, including accumulated royalties and conservative projections for the next 10 years, is $83.7 million. Annual royalty income averages $4.2 million. The room spun. I gripped the arms of my chair. That's impossible. My uncle lived in a small apartment. He drove an old car. We thought he had nothing. "Your uncle chose to live modestly," Mr. Harrison said gently. "He told me once that he'd seen too many people destroyed by sudden wealth. He wanted his legacy to be his contribution to technology, not his lifestyle. And he wanted to protect you." He pulled out a thick file. "According to the trust documents, all assets transfer to you immediately upon 3 conditions being met. First, your mother's death. Second, your presentation of the key and password. Third, you accessing the trust in a state of genuine financial crisis." He looked at me over his reading glasses. "Mrs. Rodriguez, are you in a state of genuine financial crisis?" I thought about my car full of boxes, the $1,200 in my account, the divorce papers, the job I was about to lose, the husband who called me embarrassing. "Yes," I said. My voice cracked. "Yes, I am." "Then, Mrs. Rodriguez, the trust is activated. All assets are now under your control. I need 3 things," I said, surprised by how steady my voice suddenly sounded. "Anything. First, I need immediate access to funds. Just enough for basic needs. A place to stay, food, clothes. Not too much. Not yet. I can have a cashier's check ready within the hour." "How much?" $10,000. "Consider it done." "Second, I need the name of the best intellectual property lawyer in Austin. Someone who specializes in patent law and licensing disputes. Someone David doesn't know." Mr. Harrison smiled. "I know just the person. Victoria Chen. She's brilliant, aggressive when necessary, and completely discreet. I'll call her now." "Third," I said, and I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. "I need a complete list of every company currently licensing my uncle's patents. Every single one, with details about their payment history and compliance status." Mr. Harrison's smile widened. He'd been waiting 15 years to see Raphael's niece claim her power. "I'll have that report by end of business today." I didn't check into a hotel. Instead, I rented a small furnished apartment in Clarksville, one of Austin's older neighborhoods. Nothing fancy, just a place to think. Over the next 3 weeks, I transformed. I got my hair cut and styled properly for the first time in years. I bought clothes that made me feel powerful instead of invisible. I traded my drugstore reading glasses for designer frames. But the real transformation was internal. Victoria Chen became my attorney, and she was everything Mr. Harrison promised. Brilliant, strategic, and absolutely ruthless when protecting her clients. "Let's talk about your soon-to-be ex-husband," she said at our first meeting in her downtown office. "David Rodriguez, tech consultant, tell me everything." I told her about the divorce, the settlement that gave me almost nothing, the house in David's name, the joint account he'd emptied. Victoria pulled out her laptop. David Rodriguez, owner of Rodriguez Tech Solutions, consulting firm that helps startups with technology integration. She looked up at me. Patricia, does David's company work with mobile applications, wireless systems, smartphone technology? Yes, that's his specialty. He helps companies build apps and integrate systems. Victoria's smile reminded me of a shark, and I assume these companies need to license patents for the technology they use? I suddenly understood. My uncle's patents. Exactly, she typed rapidly. I pulled David's client list. He's worked with 47 companies in the past 3 years. Let me cross-reference with your uncle's patent portfolio. She worked for 10 minutes, her expression growing more satisfied with each click. Patricia, she finally said, 32 of David's clients are using technology covered by your patents, and according to our records, only 8 of them have proper licensing agreements. What does that mean? It means 24 companies are in violation, and since David consulted for them, advised them on their technology integration, he may bear liability for the infringement. How much liability? She calculated quickly. Statutory damages for willful patent infringement can range from hundreds of thousands to millions per violation. Conservatively, if we pursue all 24 cases, we're looking at between $5 and $8 million in damages. If we can prove David knowingly facilitated the infringement, that number could double. I felt that cold, hard thing in my chest grow stronger. And David doesn't know any of this? Not yet. These are your uncle's patents, and the trust only just activated. There's no public record connecting you to them yet. To David, you're still just the librarian wife he threw away. What do? We wait, Victoria said. Men like David always overextend. He'll make a mistake. And when he does, we'll be ready. The mistake came 2 weeks later. Monica posted on Instagram, celebrating because David had just signed the biggest contract of his career. A partnership with a major smartphone manufacturer to consult on their new app ecosystem. The post had pictures of David and Monica at some fancy restaurant, champagne glasses raised, her hand showing off a massive engagement ring. The smartphone manufacturer was violating 4 of my uncle's core patents. I called Victoria immediately. This is it, she said. Not only is the manufacturer in violation, but David is actively helping them build infringing technology. We can go after both the company and David personally. What's my next move? We file cease and desist letters. But we do it through a shell company, not in your name. David won't know it's you. He'll think it's just another patent troll. But the manufacturer will immediately know this is serious. They'll want to settle. And David, she paused, David used marital funds to start Rodriguez Tech Solutions, didn't he? Yes, our joint savings. He said it was our money building our future. In Texas, that makes his company community property, which means you're entitled to half. But more importantly, if the company faces patent infringement damages in the millions and he can't pay, guess what assets become vulnerable? Everything. Everything, Victoria confirmed. The cease and desist letters went out on a Tuesday. I knew they'd landed because on Wednesday, Monica deleted her Instagram post. On Thursday, David called me for the first time since he'd kicked me out. Patricia, his voice was strained, we need to talk. Can we meet, please? I don't think that's appropriate, David. We're getting divorced, remember? This is about something else, something important. I really need your help. Please, Patricia, for old time's sake. For old time's sake. The audacity. Fine, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Mozart's Coffee Roasters on the lake. I arrived early and chose a table on the deck overlooking Lake Austin. I wore a navy blue dress, simple but expensive, with my new glasses and a leather portfolio. I looked like what I was, a woman who controlled $83 million in tech patents. David arrived exactly on time. He looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot, his face pale, his suit rumpled. He'd lost weight, and not in a healthy way. He sat down without ordering coffee. Patricia, thank you for meeting me. You said you needed help with something. I'm being sued. Patent infringement. Some company I've never heard of claims my clients are using unlicensed technology. The damages they're asking for. He ran his hands through his hair. It's insane. $6 million. I can't pay that. Everything's tied up in the business, in the house. That's unfortunate, I said calmly. The thing is, I remembered something. Your Uncle Raphael. He worked in tech, right? In California? I thought maybe you might know someone in the patent world who could help me. Someone who could explain that this is all a misunderstanding. I stared at him. The irony was so thick I could taste it. David, let me make sure I understand. You kicked me out of my home with 6 boxes of clothes. You told me I was embarrassing, that I contributed nothing, that I was coasting on your success. You took my job, my home, my savings. And now you want me to help you? He looked ashamed for maybe the first time. I know I was harsh. Monica, she was pushing me to be more aggressive about the divorce. But Patricia, we were together for 25 years. That has to mean something. Monica was pushing you. Where is Monica now? He looked away. She left. When the lawsuit news came out, she said she needed space. Broke off the engagement. I haven't heard from her in 3 days. Of course she had. Monica wasn't stupid. She'd seen the ship sinking and jumped. I'm sorry you're going through this, I said. And I meant it. Not because I wanted to help him, but because watching someone destroy themselves is always sad. But I can't help you, David. Patricia, please. I'll do anything. I'll split the business with you. I'll sign over half the house. I'll give you a real settlement. Just help me make this go away. You don't understand, David. I can't make it go away because I'm the one suing you. His face went blank. What? Rodriguez Patent Holdings. The company that sent you the cease and desist. That's my company. The patents you're violating belong to me. They belong to my Uncle Raphael, and he left them to me in trust. A trust that activated 6 weeks ago when I showed up at Wells Fargo homeless and penniless. I watched the color drain from his face as understanding dawned. The patents your clients are violating, they're worth $83 million. They generate $4 million a year in licensing fees. And you've been helping companies use them illegally for years. The $6 million we're suing for is just the beginning. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Your uncle, the janitor, he was worth millions? He was worth more than millions. He was worth something money can't buy. Integrity. He worked his whole life to create technology that changed the world, and he did it quietly. And he left it all to me to protect me when I needed it most. And I needed it because of you. David's shock morphed into anger. So what, this is revenge? You're going to destroy me because your feelings got hurt? My feelings got hurt? I said it so quietly he had to lean forward. David, you didn't hurt my feelings. You destroyed my life. But I'm not destroying yours. You did that yourself when you built a business on technology you never licensed properly. Patricia, please. I'll lose everything. Good, I said. Then you'll know exactly what you did to me. Then you'll understand what it feels like to have nothing. I stood to leave. He grabbed my arm. Wait. What do you want? Money? I'll find it somehow. Just stop this. I gently removed his hand. What do I want? I want you to sign fair divorce papers. Victoria Chen, my attorney, will send you revised terms. You'll give me what I'm legally entitled to from our marriage. And the lawsuit? The lawsuit proceeds regardless. You broke the law, David. But I'll tell you what. If you cooperate with the divorce, Victoria won't pursue maximum damages. You might keep the house. Maybe enough to start over. Which is more than you gave me. I can't believe you're doing this. Believe it. And David? One more thing. That job you and Monica eliminated at Zilker Elementary, I'm funding a new program, the Rodriguez Technology Literacy Center. Free computer access, coding classes, digital literacy programs for underprivileged students, all made possible by a grant from the Rodriguez Foundation, which I'm establishing next month. You can't do that. You can't use my name. Actually, it's my name too, and I can do whatever I want with it. I'm thinking we'll have a plaque in the lobby explaining that the center is dedicated to my Uncle Raphael and all the quiet geniuses who changed the world without seeking credit. I picked up my portfolio and looked at him one last time. Uncle Raphael taught me something, David. He said the greatest revenge is living well and lifting others as you rise. I wish you could have learned that. I walked out of that coffee shop and didn't look back. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. David signed the revised divorce papers. He kept the house but sold it to pay part of the settlement. Monica moved to Dallas and married a dentist. I heard David was working as a consultant again, but on a much smaller scale. The Rodriguez Technology Literacy Center opened in September, right at the start of the school year. 60 kids enrolled in our after-school programs. We had new computers, software donated by major tech companies who were thrilled to be associated with Raphael's legacy, and volunteer teachers from local colleges. But the moment that changed everything came 4 months after that coffee shop meeting. I was at the grand opening of a second center. This one in East Austin, in a neighborhood where most families didn't have internet at home. I stood in the main room watching a 9-year-old girl named Sophia sit down at a computer for the first time. Her eyes were wide with wonder. She clicked the mouse experimentally, delighted when the cursor moved. She opened a drawing program and started creating, her face glowing with concentration and joy. A man stood beside me, watching the same scene. "This is incredible," he said. "What you've built here." I turned to look at him. He was maybe 58, 60, with kind eyes and silver hair. He wore a casual blazer and had the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his own skin. "Thank you," I said. "It's been a labor of love." "I'm Carlos Chen," he said, extending his hand. "I'm a volunteer instructor. I teach the advanced coding class on Saturdays." "Patricia Rodriguez. I run the foundation." "Oh, I know who you are," he smiled. "Your uncle's patents are legendary in the tech world. Rafael Mendoza was a genius, and what you're doing with his legacy, it's exactly what he would have wanted." "You knew my uncle?" "Not personally, but I knew of his work. I was a patent attorney for 30 years before I retired, worked on some of the early smartphone cases. Rafael's patents were always the most elegant, the most fundamental. He understood technology in a way most people didn't. We talked for an hour. About Rafael, about technology, about education, about second chances. Carlos had lost his wife 3 years ago to cancer. He'd retired from law to spend time with her, and after she passed, he'd found purpose in teaching kids to code. "Would you like to get coffee sometime?" he asked as the event wound down. "I'd love to hear more about what you're planning for the foundation." "I'd like that," I said. We had coffee the next week. Then dinner. Then a walk around Ladybird Lake where I'd sat alone in my car 6 months earlier. Carlos was kind, funny, passionate about helping kids learn. He listened when I talked. He shared my values. On our 4th date, he asked about my life before the foundation. I told him the abbreviated version: difficult marriage, painful divorce, unexpected inheritance. "What did you do when you found out about the money?" he asked. I thought about that moment in Mr. Harrison's office. The shock, the anger, the devastation, and finally, the cold clarity. "I built something better," I said. "Something that would outlast all of it. Something that helps kids who might otherwise never get a chance." He smiled and reached across the table to take my hand. "Your uncle sounds like he was an amazing man." "He was," I agreed. "He taught me that the greatest power isn't in the money itself. It's in what you choose to do with it." "That's beautiful," Carlos said, "and wise." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then he squeezed my hand gently. "I'd like to hear more about him sometime. About you, too. Your whole story, not just the abbreviated version." "I'd like that," I said. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what I'd found. Myself, my purpose, my strength, and maybe, just maybe, a new beginning. That's my story, everyone. From 6 boxes in a parking lot to building something that will help thousands of kids access technology and education. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. And I'm serious about wanting to know where you're watching from. Your comments mean the world to me. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have helped your ex-husband, or would you have let justice take its course? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And hey, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty more stories about karma, justice, and the unexpected ways life can turn around when you refuse to give up. Trust me, you won't want to miss what I'm sharing next. From Austin, Texas, This is your friend at Twisted RNT Stories, reminding you that sometimes the people who try to tear us down end up giving us exactly the push we needed to rise higher than we ever imagined. See you in the next one.